كمثل الجسد. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that you will notice true believers to have the following qualities. You will notice that true believers, when it comes to their mercy and compassion that they have for one another, when it comes to the love that they have for one another, and when it comes to the empathy that they have for one another, they are like one single unit, like one body. And he discusses further in the hadith, إِذَا اشْتَكَى عُضْوًا then تَدَاعَى لَهُ سَائِرُ جَسَدِهِ بِالسَّهَرِ وَالْحُمَّى. That when any portion of the body begins to suffer or begins to undergo any sort of pain, then you'll find that the rest of the body also begins to feel the pain. That when a person is sick, perhaps a person is feverish, or a person has a certain ailment, then you'll note that that sickness or that pain, it doesn't restrict itself to that one place on the body, but rather the entire body is affected. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he mentioned, "Al-Muslimuna ka-rajulin wahid." That true Muslims, they are all like one body, like one unit. إِنِ اشْتَكَى عَيْنُهُ اشْتَكَى كُلُّهُ. Similarly, that when if a person's eye begins to hurt, if an eye of an individual is suffering, then you'll find that the rest of the body also begins to suffer. It begins to feel the pain. Similarly, if a person has a headache, then the rest of the body also follows suit. You find that the rest of the body becomes sluggish. A person doesn't feel like doing anything, rather his whole entire body begins to ache. When a person has a fever, then his whole body becomes sore. Similarly, when the believers hear of the suffering of other believers, then it should affect them. It should affect them. Our teacher, Mawlana Muhammad Abbas Umar Hafidhahullah, he used to mention about his teacher who's still alive, Shaykh Muhammad Awama Hafidhahullah wa ra'ahu. And when a person looks at those individuals who have sacrificed their entire lives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they have engaged in the research of ahadith and ayat of Quran, you'll find that the level of implementation of deen, of Islam in their lives sometimes it's so miraculous and it's so real that a person actually begins to awe. A person begins to really get taken aback. He mentions with regards to his teacher that sometimes we have to actually prevent other people from sharing news that happens throughout the Islamic world. We have to stop people, we have to prevent him from reading the news. Because when he sees the story, when he reads the suffering of other Muslims, he gets so affected that he physically begins to get sick. He physically gets a cold. To that level, his worry and concern is so much that we have to actually hold him back and prevent him and stop others from sharing such pieces of information. And this is actually a quality of a true believer. This is a quality of a Muslim. And these are all things that if we look at our deen, this is how a community is supposed to be. That unfortunately we are so caught in the rat race of life that we tend to worry more so about ourselves than anyone else. That we've stopped worrying about other communities. In fact, forget about the rest of the community, we've even stopped worrying about our own immediate family members at times. That if a person catches a cold, or if a person gets sick, or a person isn't feeling well, yeah, you'll get over it. no compassion, no empathy. But this is something that's a quality of a believer. And if you look at the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are so many more of these qualities. There are so many more instructions. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to instruct others. Amarana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam bi'iyadatil marid. When a person gets sick, that it is a communal right that that person who is ill, he is looked after. That it is our job as a community to ensure that someone is caring for him. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed that we also take part in janazah. When a person passes away, how many of us feel that it is my responsibility as a Muslim, my responsibility as a community member to come and take part of his salatul janazah, and then afterwards to go and help and assist in the burial. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentions wa tashmeet al-atis. Tashmeet al-atis, when a person sneezes, it is actually a communal obligation. In fact, in other hadith, it's mentioned that this is an obligation upon every Muslim who hears another saying, Alhamdulillah, that it is actually his responsibility to make dua for them and say, Yarhamukallah. And so many of these qualities and characteristics we see in the lives of non-Muslims who don't even have an objective criteria of etiquette and morals which are taught to them by their messengers. But you'll find a person sneeze, God bless you. Anywhere you go, a person sneezes, God bless you. Muslim sneezes, Alhamdulillah, sometimes you don't even hear Yarhamukallah. But this is a communal obligation. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentioned, وَإِبْرَازِ الْمُقْسِمِ. If you hear someone take on an oath, a task, then it's actually your duty to help and assist him to the best of your ability. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentions وَنَصْرِ الْمَظْلُومِ وَإِجَابَةِ الدَّاعِ وَإِفْشَاءِ السَّلَامِ. So many more communal obligations, so many more rights that people have on us. That it's our duty to help and assist those who are being oppressed. It is our duty to help and assist anyone that we see in any difficulty. That if we are invited to any gathering, any party, it is our responsibility to go and actually partake of that invitation. Whether we are feeling, whether we feel that we're going to fit in that environment with that particular crowd, so long as there's nothing haram happening. Maybe a brother from another clique in the masjid, or maybe another brother from a different community invited me because he has some personal connection with me. And I know that I'm not going to know anyone else, so I feel, I'm not going to really know anyone, so why should I even go in the first place? This mindset is completely wrong. But rather, this is our responsibility. If a brother or a sister, for that matter, invites a sister, or a brother invites a brother to partake in a particular meal or to come for a particular invitation or a particular gathering, then it is actually our duty to go and partake and bring happiness to that brother. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentioned another right, another obligation about spreading the greetings of salams, and so on and so forth. This is how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam managed to create one of the greatest communities that this world has ever seen. That you'll find even non-Muslims testifying to this. That Michael H. Hart, in his book I've mentioned here before, the 100, a list of the most influential persons of history, he mentions with regards to that, he labels Rasulullah, he lists Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the most influential person to have ever walked the face of this earth. Despite the fact that he himself was a Yahudi, he himself was a Jew, and he had his own prophet, Musa alayhi salam, is also mentioned in the book. Yet he gave preference to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Despite that, and over everyone else, he gave preference to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what was his reasoning? One of the main reasonings he mentions is because he took a community that was completely war-torn and destroyed, who hated one another's guts, and he changed them into one of the greatest of empires this world has ever seen. And it all started from these etiquettes. It all started from these communal rights. He created a community. And this is something that we have to ask ourselves, that how many of these things do we consider as important amongst our own fellow community members? When I hear of someone who is sick and ill, do I send him a message? I'm thinking about you. Do I go and help him, perhaps prepare some food? Or if I'm invited, do I take it as serious or not? And then after we have started that within our communities, or perhaps even at the same time, it's not only restricted locally. This concern should not be a local concern, but rather it should be global. Now let us ask ourselves, when we heard about this devastating earthquake that took place, how many of us truly from the bottom of our hearts felt pain? How many of us? You know, myself included. How many of us felt that my fellow brother is getting hurt? My thousands of people are losing their lives. They're losing their family members. They're losing their homes. They're losing everything. And most of them are already in such a case where they already lost their homes and they already lost their families and they're already suffering and even more suffering. Did that even strike a chord in our hearts that we actually turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and made sincere dua or not? That's something that we all have to ask ourselves. That this is a quality of a true believer, that he worries about his fellow Muslim brothers and sisters. So this is something that we have to worry about. And this is something that we have to take action regarding. You know, it's so sad. It's so sad that when it comes to many of these occasions, the first question on our mind, whether we are going to donate or not, has to do with, oh, is this legible for zakat? Is this legible for, yeah, I mean, like, definitely, if it is legible and it is possible, okay. How many people stop there? Let us ask ourselves. If it's not legible for zakat, how many of us still decide, okay, that's fine, let me give my own charity, sadaqah, which is not an obligation upon me, but rather it's for my own benefit that I'm giving sadaqah. How many of us have asked ourselves that? You know, many people, they're like, okay, I want to give zakat. But if zakat is not a viable option, hypothetically, then how many of us decide that, okay, that's fine, Allah has blessed him with more, I don't have to give this zakah because that's an obligation, there's no praise in that, that's something I have to do, but let me take some of my own money over and above that obligation, and extra voluntary charity, let me give it for this cause. And this is just one of the examples. And then you have so many other examples, whether it comes to different times throughout the year, different institutions, when they ask for money, how many of us unfortunately are stuck in this, okay, zakat, if not zakat, oh, that's fine. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all tawfiq. Once we bring all of these characteristics and these qualities into our lives, then we will be true believers, true Muslims. Then the Muslims at large will see a change. But if we continue ignoring them, or if we continue getting lost in the rat race of life, then unfortunately our entire lives are going to pass, and we will not have prepared anything for ourselves in the hereafter, and the Muslims at large would also be suffering. Lastly, I would like to mention that these type of events and disastrous, natural disasters and terrible things that happen, of course, definitely, our heart cries out for such individuals, and we make sincere dua, and we do our best to aid in any way possible. But at the same time, many famous, wise individuals have mentioned, وَالسَّعِيدُ مَنْ وُعِظَ بِغَيْرِهِ, that a true fortunate person is the one who takes lesson from others. Many of these individuals, they thought that they were going to live till the next Ramadan. None of them knew that their lives were going to end in like a single snap. So none of us know. Allah protect us, we could have an earthquake here and then we could all pass away. How many of us are ready for that meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And what have we prepared? And where are we going? Let us all reflect on all of these things. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the tawfiq to put all of these things into implementation. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Let us all perform our sunnahs. And before starting, please fill in all the gaps as possible and come forward, as there are many brothers who are continuously coming in and they may not have a place. Again, this goes directly into our lecture, our concern for our other fellow Muslim brothers. So let us inshallah please fill up as many places and gaps that we see before we start our sunnah. Jazakumullahu Khairun. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please pass the donation boxes from left to right and donate generously. Sadaqah wards off calamities and also draws the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please also do not park on the curb parking behind the seminary building or the Swift Highway. Do not park on the curb behind the seminary building or on either side of Swift Highway. There are no parking signs posted, and we also placed cones to prevent individuals from parking at these locations. Alhamdulillah, we have ample parking with the acquisition of the new lot, so kindly use that. Our Dar es Salaam programs are continuing. We have monthly seminars. There is one today, in fact, Keys to a Fulfilling Marriage with Brother Farhan Ahmed, founder of Ihsan Coaching. We invite everyone to join us tonight after Isha Salah to learn the keys to feeling more fulfilled within our marriages. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that marriage is half of your deen. Inshallah, Brother Farhan Ahmed will be discussing effective communication skills, conflict resolution, the importance of friendship, and various other challenges that married couples face. We also have our Girls Youth Halaqah, Soulful Chats, which will take place on Friday, February 10th, which is today, at 5:45 to 7:45 p.m. It will take place in the Sisters Seminary Prayer Hall. Sisters only between the age of 13 to 21. Our weekly program, Saturday Team Fajr, will be held tomorrow. Fajr Iqamah is at 6:15. Bukhari Dars will resume, inshallah, from Monday. Tuesday's tafsir programs are also continuing with Surah Mu'min, and we have our weekly salawat gatherings on Thursday after Isha Salah. There is also a student program for high school and college students on Friday, February 17th after Isha Salah. There is also an organization, HHRD, with people outside with flyers to help for Turkey and for Syria as well. So kindly assist and let us all take place in that. There's a dua request specifically for Brother Zahir Siddiqui, who has an open heart surgery today. Let us all make dua earnestly for him, as well as all of those who are going through difficulty throughout the world. Allahumma shfina wa shfi mardana wa mardal muslimin warham mawtana wa mawtal muslimin.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله علي الذات عظيم الصفات سميع السمات كبير الشان جليل القدر رفيع الذكر مطاع الأمر جلي البرهان فخيم الاسم غزير العلم وسيل الحلم كثير الغفران جميل الثناء جزيل العطاء مجيب الدعاء عميم الإحسان سريع الحساب شديد العقاب أليم العذاب عزيز السلطان. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله المبعوث إلى الأسود والأحمر المنعوت بشرح الصدر ورفع الذكر، وصلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، فيا أيها الناس وحدوا الله فإن التوحيد رأس الطاعات، واتقوا الله فإن التقوى ملاك الحسنات، وعليكم بالسنة فإن السنة تهدي إلى الإطاعة ومن أطاع الله ورسوله فقد رشد واهتدى وإياكم والبدعة فإن البدعة تهدي إلى المعصية ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل وغوى. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وقال ربكم ادعوني أستجب لكم إن الذين يستكبرون عن عبادتي سيدخلون جهنم داخرين. بارك الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين ونفعني وإياكم من الآيات والذكر الحكيم. أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله بين يدي الساعة. من يطيع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر، وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر، وأصدقهم حياء عثمان، وأقضاهم علي رضي الله تعالى عنهم أجمعين. وقال: الله الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي، فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم، ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم، وخير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر إخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان، اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم. اللهم ارحم أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، اللهم فرج عن أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، اللهم اغفر لأمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمد رسول الله، أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Please ensure that all the gaps are filled and that the lines are straight. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.